You're listening to another episode of the Hashtag Kangaroos podcast. Here is your host, Dean Basic.
Yeah, I can hear it. I can hear it.
Story of the podcast world. So, can you hear me, Siobhan? I think you're on mute at the moment.
I can hear you, Dean. I thought it was myself that dropped out, so I was about to go and
She's gone.
fiddle around.
Yeah, there you are. There you are. No, my internet dropped out, so I think we're back on track.
Yes, no, I was about to go fiddle around with the set-top box on the Wi-Fi and just to make sure that. But now we're back on. We're good to go.
Yeah, the Australian internet working beautifully. Bit like our first half from last week, but we're going to come back strong in that second half, Siobhan, and we're going to make some real progress here. But today, we've before we get stuck into the game last weekend and your emotions into that game, we've had some big contract news the last couple of days.
Huge.
Now, George Wardlaw has signed on for 2 more years and a contract extension for Paul Curtis, taking his contract to 2033. That's a big deal. Let's get your thoughts on George Wardlaw first. Only two years, but maybe a few concerns that he can be durable. I guess hence the shorter deal. Let's get your thoughts on George Wardlaw first, and maybe why only a 2-year deal.
Yeah, it's great news, Dean. Absolutely unbelievable news, especially coming off the back of what was a Herculean last quarter from George Wardlaw. He was instrumental in getting us the win, and it's a pretty dramatic statement, but I don't think there's any, if not many, players in the competition that have the gear that George Wardlaw can get to in the game. He's as tough and tenacious, and he's a North Melbourne player. He's a shin boner. He's just got so much about him that is all what the North Melbourne Football Club represents. Never beaten, tough. He's just in the contest, and even when he doesn't have the pill himself, just his unbelievable efforts to try and mow down the opposition. It's glorious to watch. So thrilled that he signed on at the club. I think he's a North Melbourne person. So it's nice to see him in the blue and white for at least another 2 years. I think it's probably a win-win for both parties in that George has signed on. And I guess in his camp, it's a matter of seeing how he goes in his career and how the club is going in 2 years' time as well, and what sort of additional value he'll put on his contract with another 2 years under the belt. And in the same breath, I guess, for the club, seeing how he goes with his hamstrings and what he can produce. And I think in 2 years' time, we'll be having a conversation, hopefully around extending him for the long term. But I think just we're not out of the woods yet with his injury concerns. And I assume for George and his management, we're not sort of out of the woods yet in terms of success for the club and what he would want as well. So I think 2 years is reasonable. Would I have liked more? Probably, but it's probably the safe option for both parties.
At this stage, yeah. Look, he's touch wood, so far so good in the last 7 or 8 weeks.
Yeah.
He seems to have worked hard on his running patterns. He seems to be more upright when he's running, and he seems to protect his head more in the contest as well, turning his body a lot more.
Quite funny. You mentioned that in the podcast a few months ago, Dean, and it stands out now that you've mentioned it, because I do think there is a complete 180 in his technique, in his running. I definitely agree with that, and that may be why he hasn't had as many soft tissue injuries.
Well, yeah, I'll still go back. This is probably going back 15, 20 years ago when Cyril Rioli was doing a lot of soft tissue injuries early in his career, and they got a running coach into him, and they went through everything and they worked on his technique, and all of a sudden he didn't get any soft tissue injuries after that, and had some longevity. So we're certainly hoping that's what's going to happen to George Wardlaw. Look, he's the heart and soul and the spirit of this football team.
Yep.
And he may be a little bit of an outside chance to possibly be the next captain of this football club, just with the way he leads on the field. And he speaks quite well off the field as well. Like, even in the media, he's quite funny. I don't know if it sits comfortably with him, but I think that's a possibility that he will be at least in the leadership group in the coming years.
Absolutely. I think what he is he's the perfect complementer to the midfield group that we've got. I think we have, Sullivan and Sheasel, LDU. I mean, it's that group going forward, and George, where he's sort of the grunt player. But I think what slips past all of us is actually quite quick. And he does have attributes like that, and you can easily fall for the idea that players that are tough aren't fast. But I think when he puts the jets on, he's quite fast. So I think he's sort of the perfect package, but he's certainly more an inside type. And when you've got Wardlaw feeding it out to the likes of O'Sullivan and Sheasel and these guys, is just so exciting for our future, and gives you such hope that the next premiership side will include those guys that I've just mentioned, and they were the ones that got us over the line on the weekend in a last quarter that will go down in North Melbourne folklore, and it's just nice that George will be part of that, hopefully for the long term.
Well, we certainly hope so. Jack Crow's coming into the chat. Dean, just letting you know you're still welcome into the Kane Turner, Jack Marnie, Jacob Costanti fan club. That's a bit harsh on Costanti. I think he's better than those two. So, we'll talk more about him later. But, Look, also, Paul Curtis. Now, he's signed on till 2033. The club see him a big priority and a big part of the future. Already was contracted till 2028. I thought it was 2029, but it was 2028. I checked before. So they obviously see him a big part of the future and the core with Harry Sheasel, Luke Davies-Uniacke, Nick Larkey and so forth, I guess, Siobhan.
It's an interesting one because we discussed this the other week, Dean, and you were kind of not as sold on that being a priority, but I love it. I really think Paul Curtis has gears that we haven't unlocked yet. He is that sort of player that I do think that we kind of had this discussion around certain players, such as, or maybe the script is flipped, signing on Spargo and Constanti and these guys on long-term deals wasn't necessarily a wise move, in that clubs aren't banging down the door for that type of player, but I think clubs will start banging down the door, not anymore, but Paul Curtis is that type of prototype player that every club's looking for. He's an incredible upside, and he'll just continue to grow and get better. Clearly, on the off season, he nearly died, so he is going to continue to get better as the year goes on, as he continues to recover from that horrifying sort of lung incident that he had overseas. So his year so far maybe hasn't reached the ceiling that I think it can, but him as an overall player is that we've got a really special player on our hands here. And what's so exciting is that he wasn't a high pick. He was the pick that we got later in the draft that has worked out really well. And that's how clubs become premiership sides, is that they do well in the later part of the draft. He was a small forward from the Western Jets that we managed to snag, and it's turned out to be a genius move. So locking him away is a really important piece of our future. And again, he's always been a North Melbourne person, so I never thought he was never going to be at the club. But it's just nice to know that his future's secured. And again, he's a prime piece in the next premiership side that will be there for the next 5 years at least.
I know there was someone that was, mentioned a player comparable for him could be in the future, like a Patrick Dangerfield. At the moment, like he
Yeah,
spends a
yeah.
fair bit of time forward, and then he can pinch hit in the middle, and he can go in the middle for longer periods. And like you said, he's had a few health issues in the off season that like he's almost lost his life. So so maybe he's not, at his full peak of fitness. He's still very young. He's only 21, 22 years old. So plenty of time to mature and become a player that can go forward and in the midfield for good spells. So I don't think that's a bad player
Do
comparison.
you
To be
see
honest.
him being a midfielder long term, or do you still see him as being that half forward type?
I think forward 50, it might be like 75%, 25% in the midfield. I
Yeah,
think there will be times where he will, especially with the big body, he can fend off, and he's not a bad clearance player when he does go in the
true.
midfield,
Yep.
and his skills are quite good. Like I'd back him into Laurie's eyes and hit targets on the lead, and make the right decision going inside forward 50. So I don't mind that player comparison, Siobhan, with
No,
Patrick
I
Dangerfield.
think it's true. I think obviously the joke going around is the bench press king sort of thing. So he's definitely got the strength. And he's only 23, Dean. So he's got so much upside in his
Yeah.
career. And someone that there's a lot of experimentation that can go on there, which is exciting. And then if you combine him with the likes of Dersma, who he could link up with inside that forward 50, there's a lot of hope that once the likes of Jack Darling and Zerha and these guys do leave the club, it's left in such strong hands with these guys. So I get it. I get that comparison. I don't think he's as tall as Danger, but there is a capacity for that strong bullying sort of type of player that we've yet to unlock with him.
No, definitely. All right, Siobhan, let's go back to last week, and I want to get your emotions from when it was half time, 37 points down, looking very bleak, as opposed to the full-time siren going off and Cameron Zerha kicking the sealer right at the siren.
Regrettably, Dean, I actually wasn't at the game, which is it's awful to think about because I haven't missed a game in so long. But I got crook and I had to watch it from home, and it's interesting to get your take being at the game and myself watching it on the TV. But um, it's it's amazing what we saw. If you're looking at how I felt at halftime, probably not great. I'm definitely glad I didn't get online or start messaging because it wasn't a great um, period of time to be in the game. But it's interesting. Clarkson's interview with Fox Footy, I watched that live, and he sort of mentioned that the game was on a knife's edge, and that we were doing a lot of things right, and it felt like that watching it. But it was almost as if Gold Coast were just too talented or had too much. Too much. I don't know if poise is the right word, but they just looked like
They
we
took their
looked like
chances. They were
everything we
very,
were doing was really hard, and they looked like everything they were
yeah.
doing was quite easy. And that was from watching on the telly. But I listened to Clarkson. I thought, actually, if you look at the stats, everything's pretty even. We just maybe haven't taken our chances. And I started to think, okay, well, let's see what we've got in the second half. But it was like they got a goal and then we got a goal and it was okay. And then they got another goal and it just felt like a never ending battle of, well, they're just going to have the answers because they're just a little bit too good and we're not quite there yet. And then the last quarter came around and the last 15 minutes came around and it was exactly what we've wanted to see for 10 years. It was just incredible football. And even the last 30 seconds of the game to take on those kicks, Parker and Wardlaw, and to just use the corridor and back our pace and our skill and our boys. It was just so it was poetic to watch. It was exactly what we've been hoping for, and it just showed me that we've made so much progress, and it was so important that we got the win, and that's why to watch them not be content even with the draw, to take the game on and do what they did was just phenomenal. And I did at some stages want to rip my hair out of it with the umpiring, so I'm glad we got one our way. In the sense of the last decision. Um, it's hard to watch at times with umpiring throughout the game too, and I'm glad that didn't cost us. But it's hard to describe how exciting it was. I was actually on the floor, smacking the floorboards with so much. And I don't. If you want me to be really honest, I didn't think we were going to win that game of football. There was no way. Even with the 30 seconds left, I mean, Gold Coast got the clearance, and we thought, oh my god, it's going to be devastating. And we've seen that script so many times. The amount of times I've watched us get rolled, and they just found another gear, another way. They had belief and trust in each other, and it's exactly what we've needed. It would have been devastating to lose that game when we got so close, Dean, because they needed the reward. They weren't quite able to get that against Sydney. And the Adelaide game, it felt like more than redemption. It felt like that was the outlier, and the real truth of the season so far was that we are winners and we've made significant improvements. So to have that sort of victory going into the bye indicates to me that we're in for a really exciting second half of the year, and we're set up wonderfully. That was the best win I've seen from North Melbourne in 10 years. What a time to do it, and what an opportunity to show our wares. It was, pretty incredible to say the least.
We've had a couple of good comeback wins in the last quarter. Nothing like this to this extent. Like obviously, Good Friday game was a special win. But this one, we sort of came from nowhere really. We didn't really have any right to win that game. I thought, I Mr. Jimmy Duke came into the chat and said 7 goals from free kicks to the Suns. We're getting a lot of things not going our way. You mentioned the umpiring. And, we made a couple of mistakes, and it blew the margin out at half time. But full credit, the players stuck at it. And, it was more so, you see McAndrew, drop a ball inside their defensive 50. Zeke Ewell be all over Nick Lark in the first quarter. And, it just felt like nothing was going their way. And it could have been easy to make excuses, if we did fall short. But full credit and good maturity and good signs from the group. And the ones that stood up, it wasn't the LDU, it wasn't Harry Sheezel. Look, they had good last quarters. But you look at George Wardlaw, 13 disposals, 5 scoring involvements, 2 clearances. Finn O'Sullivan, 12 disposals, 6 scoring involvements, 3 tackles, 2 clearances in the last quarter. Hard not to get excited seeing that. And sometimes we do get a little too excited. Shout out to my wife. But it's good to see that some of these young guards are showing the way. It's not just the LDUs or the Sheezels that we expect. It's these other guys, almost the second tier, but that's probably discrediting those boys. But, it is a little bit of the second tier stepping up and, getting us over the line too, Sean.
It's a really great point you make, Dean, and I think that's where, as a football club, we've taken a massive step forward in that it was only round 1. No, I take that back. It was round 2 when we played West Coast, and it's probably the game that we almost got away at this point in the season, that we discussed maybe still heavily relying on the likes of LDU and Sheezel to come out and have 100 disposals between them for us to be in games or win games. And same with Nick Larkey. It was almost constantly felt like he had to kick a bag for us to be in games. And that's where I think the huge improvements come, is that the gap between our top and our middle and our tail seems to have shortened significantly, and they're playing as a team. There's a cohesion and a brand of footy now that we can identify that's good enough to challenge anyone. And I think that's how good sides are born, is that everyone starts playing together in a manner where it's playing your role, but it's also shining when the time comes as well. And it just feels like there aren't many passengers anymore, or as many as what there used to be, and more and more players are starting to believe in themselves, the players around them, and the system that we have. And that's probably why we won the game on the weekend as well, because we weren't scared to risk it to win it, and that was what was so exciting as well. And you mentioned the likes of Wardlaw and O'Sullivan, and you can throw in probably Dersma and his decision-making in the last part as well. That kick to LDU was phenomenal. And in the commentary, Jared Healy yells out Zerha, and then he kicks it to LDU and backtracks pretty quick and goes, "Oh, actually, it was probably the right decision." So, I mean, it was just the way his vision was fantastic, and that shows sort of the talent that he has as well, and the fact that he might not get his hands on the ball as much, but the impact he has when he gets the ball, it's either a score involvement or a score. So he's fulfilling his role beautifully, and yeah, I mean, LDU's composure to go back and kick the goal, it just felt like all the stars aligned, and everyone was part of it. I mean, credit to Charlie Comben, because I was ready to throw my shoe at the TV at the start of the game, especially with what can be probably called a few brain farts that he has sometimes. But he, in the second half, in the last quarter in particular, against Jed Walter, and the decisions he made and willingness to come off his man and take the game on as well with his, we already know he has great marking ability, was fantastic. And I'll go out on a limb here and say the reason we won the game wasn't necessarily George Wardlaw or it's O'Sullivan's performance or Luke Parker's dart again in the last quarter to kick it to Zerha. It was probably the fact that Griffin Lowe kept them king to one goal. Because if he had got off the leash, then we'd be talking about a very different scenario. So credit to him, I've been very harsh, but he had a fantastic game as well. So everyone seems to be buying in and playing their role. And if we can keep this up, Dean, then there's no reason why we can't be playing in the wildcard round, which what an experience for our boys to be playing in technically a final series. So I'm hoping I'm not getting too far ahead of myself, but it just feels like the pieces are coming together. And one other point, this is a very long-winded answer, but I guess the fact that Tristan Sherry wasn't having a great game as well, and we've relied so heavily on him, winning not only the centre clearances and the hit-outs, but being such a strong impactor around the ground. It didn't feel like he had that sort of game, but yet we were able to substitute it with Dawson and Tremba, who probably changed it for us, and we still came away with the results. So, yeah, there's just, I think Clarko's also coaching a lot better than what he was when all of the racism saga was going on, and B, it just feels like he's probably got a few magnets and tricks up his sleeve that he hasn't before, and a bit more experience in his young boys. And subsequently, it just feels like he's coaching a lot smarter and a lot wiser as well. I mean, the McKercher Zerha move probably changed the game, or it did in the end, because I mean Zerha was the one that kicked the winning goal. So yeah, there's just a lot of positives to take out of that, a lot of emotion, and I think it's funny. I was around to watch Carlton in that crazy period of time where they went on this wave of momentum and made it to a preliminary final. I'm not saying the same thing's going to happen, but it's funny when you string a few games together and a few wins together and a few shock sort of wins together, how much belief and growth the group can get. And there's no reason why we can't continue that trajectory and wave after the bye.
Look, yeah, I mean, we don't want to get too excited, but even Jack Ginnivan's getting excited about the future of North Melbourne. I don't know why he's got, he seems like he's got a bit of a soft spot for North Melbourne, Jack Ginnivan. He talks them up a lot. So, yeah, he's even saying the next 10 years after this year, probably going to play finals, so, which is a fair statement. I remember... I know I have to get the Zach Fisher thing in. And I said in the pre-season, he's our best small forward. I came up with stats. And there was one person that retweeted that, and that was Jack Ginnivan. So he's a Zach Fisher fan too, Siobhan, just to let you know. There was Mr. Jimmy Duke came in the chat again. Wardlaw unsighted before half-time. He's actually unsighted for the first three quarters. Only had 6 touches. Yep. And he sort of says, cannot understand the hate for Logue. He turns it over every now and then, but rarely gets beaten one-on-one. It's more like when he does turn it over, it is pretty significant. And he does probably cost the team 1 or 2 goals with some of the bad turnovers he does do. And that's what's in people's memories as well. But yeah, like you said, Siobhan, kept being kicked to 1 goal, so that's a pretty good effort.
Yep. In my view, it was probably match winning, purely due to the fact that if he got off the chain, he made him the difference. So kudos to him.
No, definitely. You got to give praise when it's there, that's for sure. Yeah, and you mentioned a few positional changes at halftime. Trembath spent more time at the CBAs because Sherry was struggling with the hitouts. I think halfway through the third quarter, Gold Coast had double the hitouts and 12-5 hitouts to advantage as well. Zerha goes back forward, McKercher half pack to give the team a bit more speed behind the ball. I mean, as far as positional changes, we nailed it, and we are going to go through some mid-season reviews here, but have we found out a few things here, Siobhan? I don't mind, Zerha going back and forward depending on situation and how the game's going, but at the end of the day, look, there's a lot more body of work. He's played 150 games as a forward as opposed to 5 or 6 in the back line, and I guess it just depends on the game situation and where he plays going forward. But it's good to have that versatility with a few of these players.
It is, absolutely it is. But I do still predominantly think that Cam Zerha should be played as a forward. But the pressure on spots is significant up there at the moment, and everyone seems to be playing their role. Even Jacob Constanti. I mean, both of us can probably a little bit of apple pie, can't we? So there just seems to be, and that's a really positive thing that we found out a few things about a few of the players on the list. And in regards to Zerha, I do still love seeing him up forward. And it did feel like the forward line was really struggling. And like I said, watching it from the TV, it just felt like everything Gold Coast did was easy and everything we did seemed to be hard work to get to where we were. Maybe that's, again, partly because of where Nick Larkey's at the moment too. It kind of feels like everything's a bit hard. And I mentioned last week in the podcast that Sam Collins may have been the difference, and it felt like that in the first half. He was just intercepting everything. He's just a brute of a player. So I think maybe having Zerha down there prevents that sort of stuff happening maybe, but it is nice to know that we do have some versatility. And I mean, Colby is the perfect example of versatility because I think that, again, there's so much to untap with him in regards to where he plays. And it also did feel like we got a lot more drive out of the back half with him there. But in saying that, I mean, the unsung hero for mine is probably Riley Hardiman. I thought he made a massive difference to the way we structured up and looked. Like, everyone's quick to jump on Caleb Daniel, but I think having Daniel and Hardiman there, it gives us a bit more of that spring off half back. And I enjoyed listening to your commentary on the podcast that you did earlier in the week, Dean, around the fact that so many scores came from the back half. And I think that's definitely where the game is at. If you don't have the ability to score from your back half, you're stone cold lost. You're in big trouble. I think that's predominantly where things are done, and that's why Nick Blakey is such an important player in the AFL because he drives Sydney forward so many times. So maybe Riley Hardiman is that sort of player and the one we've been crying out for. So I don't think he should miss another game barring any injuries because he may not have jumped off the stat sheet, but I thought we looked a lot more structured with him there. So yeah, there is a nice ring to the fact that we've got a lot of players that can maybe help out in many different ways. So it'll be interesting to see how things go. I mean, the player I'm interested in hearing your thoughts on, Dean, is where does Will Dawson fit into all of this? Because I felt like him and the ruck didn't do us any favours at times.
Yeah, they seem to have an obsession playing him as a backup ruckman. I still like him as a defender. That's his long-term position. There's no question about that. There's still things he's got to work on with his craft in the back line. He did go back there a couple of times over the weekend, did some couple of nice spalls, but sometimes he just doesn't get a body on his player. And even Charlie Comben did that in the first half. Let what's his name, Jed Walter, just run and jump at the ball too much. Whereas if you get a body, particularly early against a player like a Ned Moyle or Jared Witts, then I mean they're not going to be able to run and jump at the ball. But you just let them go into space, and they've got the big vertical hands. So yeah, I mean it's very hard to spoil. So he's got a bit to work with there, but I think that's his long-term position. I don't mind as long as he's getting the game at the moment. Depending on needs, like if Sam Darcy did play, look, obviously he's out for another 12 months. But if he's playing, then he's a good matchup for him. There might be a ruckman that's 202 centimetres. He can go on there in the back line as well with his height. So I think he's about 206 centimetres himself at the moment.
He's a big boy.
He's huge at the moment. I remember when he was a scrawny little, skinny little kid
Yes.
when he first came in the system. But no, he's huge now, and he's crunched some players too in some tough tackles. So I don't mind as long as you get in a game, Siobhan. But do you see him as a defender long term?
Absolutely, and that's why I think he's being wasted in the ruck.
Yeah.
The game almost felt different, and the part of the reason why we won against Carlton was having Trembath there. He's just with the new ruck rules. I still think it's impacted Tristan Sherry in a negative way in terms of his ruck craft. He's always still going to show unbelievable wares, almost as another midfielder. I mean, their game against Geelong was unheard of numbers for a ruckman. So he's got that ability, but I still think that against the more athletic types, he just struggles a bit, maybe, or he's never been an athletic sort of ruckman, and that's probably where Trembath comes in. And he's like an NBA player. That's kind of the style he's got. He's nice. He's poetically beautiful to watch in the middle, the way he kind of leaps at the ball. So I like the idea of maybe rotating Sherry and Trembath a bit through there. But I think Will Dawson's probably wasted in that role. You either play him as a defender or you don't play him at all. I think that's probably where I'm at with that at the moment.
No, that's fair enough. I'm happy for him to get a go. If it's a second ruckman, so be it at the moment. So he did play a fair bit of that in the VFL, and I questioned that at the time too. But they're doing it in seniors, so if they do it in seniors, then it makes sense that why they're doing it in the VFL. And I like the balance in the back line with the Kircher back there. 8 disposals in the second half with over 200 metres gained. You mentioned Hardiman. It gives the team genuine speed behind the ball, which is something we've been lacking for a long time. And it seems more balanced and releases Caleb Daniel to do his thing. Luke McDonald frees up as well as that lockdown defender. Luke Parker frees him up as well. He doesn't have to do these pinpoint kicks. He's very good at them. There's no doubt about that. But
What?
yeah, I know. It's very rare from a North Melbourne player. But I like the balance of McKercher in the back line. I still like him behind the ball, Siobhan. I still think that's his best position at the moment.
I agree. The thing is, it's easy to be critical, and I'm definitely guilty of this. I think no matter who you are, if you make a mistake in the back half, the consequence is significant. Where if you turn the ball over in the forward line or even in the middle for that much, it's not as significant, but you remember when players make a mistake and it results in an opposition goal. So I think that's why when McKercher makes an error down there, people are quick to fret about it, and I get that. I'm guilty of it too, but I think what he can provide down there compared to some his occasional mistakes is probably outweighs each other. I agree. He's probably best suited there. It's just when he puts the Jets on, it's unbelievable. The Gold Coast game last year when he took those boomer like bounces, I mean, and he almost did it again. It's really exciting to watch, and I think he does again provide a lot of drive and class out of there. I mean, you can't doubt his ability in terms of his skill. So it'll be an interesting one again where we continue to move the magnets with him.
But it's always good to have that versatility. It seems to be a theme of that we've got that option of moving players.
The theme of left footers with Clarko as well, isn't it?
Oh, he did it pretty well at Hawks, didn't he? He pretty much built a whole team of left footers there. So, he loves his left footers, that's for sure. They do look a lot cleaner when they kick the football. It makes sense to get as many as you can in, Siobhan. Now, is there any stopping the dynamic duo of Jacob Castandi and Charlie Spargo? I'm starting to come around to Jacob Castandi, Siobhan, not fully there. But he showed that he was a lot more proactive on the weekend.
Listening to too much #kangaroos, Dean, I think, is Jacob. I think that was his best game for the club.
Easily.
He kicked 2 goals. He looked really lively. His overhead mark that he took as well when we were absolutely surging was critical for the final result too. So credit to him. I've also been a huge critic on this show about sort of his role in the team. I loved his role because it was more attacking. It felt like what he was brought into the side and recruited to do. And maybe he wasn't necessarily given... he played on Rioli somewhat. I think he was minding him and he had a poor game for his standards, Daniel Rioli. So to his credit, if I'm not reading the room incorrectly and he did actually play a role on Rioli, then that's a tick. But also, he was able to sort of do what Finn Sullivan's been doing, is nullify the opposition player, but have a great game himself. And I thought he looked better because he looked like he was willing to sort of attack more. Sometimes you see him try to lay a tackle and it's just spaghetti arms, but it felt like he was really forceful and brutal in his tackling, and that's what he's there for. So if he can produce more of that, then there's no doubt that he'll continue to play games and good games for the club in that forward line. So fingers and toes crossed he can keep that up, because if he can, then we may have unlocked the problem that we've had for a really long time, a quality small.
Well, he's pushing in the second quarter. He's pushing the back line a lot. So I think they pushed him up on the wing.
Working hard, I think he was. He was running and helping out, which is good to see.
Yeah, at a couple of stoppages, Griffin Logue told him to match up on Ben King in the defensive 50, so Griffin Logue could be the spare. So that's the confidence this club has in Costanti. But look, even in the third quarter, there was a period there where he was running a wing and he took a couple of bounces, trying to really take the game on. He used a bit of speed, it was the first time I really ever seen him do that. And I don't mind a player doing it. It adds a bit of excitement. He's not Colby McKercher or anything like that, but he does. He can run. He does have a bit of pace on him, so it's good to see. And he kicked a couple of nice goals as well. So. Yeah, hopefully, long may it continue. And like you said, we may have found something here. Who knows? We've got about 20 small forwards on the list at the moment. So, yeah, hopefully one of them can do something. So we'll have to wait and see. But are you happy to be 5 and 6 at the halfway point of the year with a percentage in the mid-90s?
Yes. You can't, from where we've come from, Dean, you can't complain with that. Does it feel like we left a few wins on the table? Absolutely. I still am dumbfounded about the West Coast game. That feels bizarre to me still. And it did feel like we deserved the win against Sydney. They're the two that you probably rue a little bit. But in saying that, we won 5.5 games last year. We're already at five wins. Our percentage is fairly healthy. It took a brutal knock against the game against the Crows in Adelaide. But to be sitting here, I mean, even you can agree, it's probably an unfamiliar place. And I guess with the 10 coming in now, we can dare to dream a little bit with where we may end up. How do you feel, Dean? Is it sort of the same sentiment?
Yeah, look, I'm pretty happy with where we're at. Look, I'll look at the percentage more so. Like you said, we might have left a couple wins out there, but we probably, we probably should have lost on the weekend too. So it might balance out a little bit. And outside of probably the last quarter against Geelong and the second quarter against Adelaide, everything else has been quite competitive. And maybe the second game of the year against West Coast was quite disappointing. But overall, I think we would have taken that at the start of the year to be 5 and 6. And
I think it's more the way we've played. I think we've identified a brand and a buy-in that I don't think we could have said last year. I mean, I remember you and I speaking about this last year and hoping that we'd see this. So do you look at percentage as an indicator of where things are at?
It's an indication of how competitive you are. Because if you're just scraping wins by winning, getting luck, winning by a goal or 5 points and then getting smashed in other games because you don't have that luck, I think it covers a lot of the flaws in your team. So, like you said, there seems to be an identity. I mean, it was good to see on the weekend. We kicked 7 goals last quarter. All those goals came from defensive 50 chains.
Yep.
Whereas previously, we've had to. It's felt like almost we've had to rely on talent, individual talent like LDU or Sheasel or both of them to have really good games for us to win games. So, whereas this was, it felt like a system win. So it's a big statement. So, hopefully, it's a sign of things to come. Jimmy Duke has come in to chat a few times. He said JK needs to show this a few games in a row to convince me. Well, we're certainly hopeful. But there are signs. He was on Noble. I thought he's thinking. JK. He's talking about. I thought he's talking about David Noble. I go, what did you mention him for? But no, John Noble and not Cyril Rioli. The other Rioli is it Daniel Rioli. At times he got stuck in the back line following Noble, and a couple of other things he sort of said. So thanks for coming to chat there, Jimmy Duke. But the highlights so far for you this season, Siobhan?
Good Friday was a feeling that I'll
Yeah.
never forget anytime soon. That was the roar when Harry Sheasel kicked that goal and just the fight. I've loved. I almost hate using this term because it's very cliche, but it feels like Shimbona spirits back at North Melbourne. That we are
A
never
little bit.
beaten, we are never dead, and that's the come from behind win. So the Gold Coast win and the Carlton win to me was so exciting because it shows that we can be down a little bit, but we can find our way and fight our way. That's what's been so exciting for me. Highlights. I think the season of LDU for me as well has been a real highlight. I think he's criminally underrated a little bit, even amongst our own supporters. I think this year he's been consistently good. And I think the thing with LDU has been that he has been in and out of games, in and out of seasons. You know, you get one good game from you here and there, but I've loved watching him produce every week. And when he's on, he's on. He's an unbelievable player to watch. So I feel like that's been exciting to see. Oh, Dean, you've caught me off guard a little bit. It's just there's
Yeah, I was
so
trying
much
you a left field one
it's
there.
so
So
much that's been like
yeah,
exciting to watch this year, and I think just being having the feeling that no matter who we're playing and where we are, that we are a chance to win the game has been really exciting. And watching a brand and a system under Clarkson flourish, I think that's probably the big part of that too. Round one was really exciting against Port because it felt like the year was set up and it was going to be a year to remember. So that's probably some of mine. What about for you?
uh, seeing the rebirth of some of these old blokes like Jack Darling, Luke Parker, I sort of thought they were on their last legs. But Jesus, Luke Parker was almost all Australian. Jack Darling's probably been one of our best forwards
Mm.
this year, and he went out of the team after the West Coast game as well for a week. And I thought, well, that's fair enough. You want to get some young kids in, and give them a go. But he came back in after that. I think it might have been when Sherry got the suspension.
Yep.
He hasn't put a foot wrong. And, like we talk about other key forwards at the club, like the Cooper Trembas, and,
Yep.
they could certainly learn a lot from Jack Darling about how he plays a game. He doesn't just rely on contested marking. That's something Cooper Trembas has got to work on. Your game can't just be contested marking all the time. He's got to learn to push up the ground and find himself space inside forward 50 and communicate with his forwards. And sometimes he's going to have to play a sacrificial role, and Jack Darling does it to perfection. Even last year, we did see the value with him, but I think he's been really good form this year. And mixed in with the Finn O'Sullivans, George Wardlaw having a good run of games at the moment. The weekend has to be the biggest highlight too.
Yeah.
The Gold Coast win, the come from behind win, and the Good Friday win. So, yeah, they're probably the main highlights. What
I
about?
think Cooper Trembus mark as well against who was it? That flying mark from out of nowhere. He appeared from in the goal square.
That was the Barossa Valley game against
That was
Brisbane.
it. That was against Brisbane. Yeah, so that was also probably very.
Yeah,
I
that was a
wasn't there
great
live,
mark.
but it was a great mark, and it's been a while since we've seen a player take a mark like that. So that was an exciting thing to watch.
Yeah, definitely. What about anything like
Yeah.
low lights so far this year? Is that a word, low lights? Things that you haven't enjoyed.
Yeah, yeah. I think the feeling after the West Coast loss, and I mean, they've probably redeemed themselves and bounced back, but it felt like here we go again. Like we had that great win in round one against Port, and then we kind of let ourselves down. And I'm really proud and happy to say that that was probably the outlier, and same with what we saw the second quarter against Adelaide. I think those are the things that in this build that we've got going that we still have to sometimes understand that there will be times when things aren't always going our way. I think from an individual player point of view, I'm a bit sort of disappointed in the season of Tom Powell. I really thought that he would be a player that would continue to grow and develop alongside O'Sullivan and Sheasel and LDU and be a big part of it. But I think his sort of lack of form has been a little bit not shocking, but I probably unexpected. I thought his trajectory was probably a little bit higher. It's a strange thing to not have a lot of things to sort of be disappointed in. Yeah, I think that's probably and I think it's probably unfair to say this because it's he's only in his first year, but I think I was expecting a little bit more from Lockie Dobson in the games that he's played. He'll continue to get better and grow, but I'm hopeful that the second half of the year will see him sort of push his way into the side again. And hopefully, it's a really hard position to play. So he'll take time, but hopefully we'll see a bit more from him. I think people, when players are selected so high in the draft, expect them to come out and be superstars. But he's probably disappointed a little for mine. So I think his continued growth and development will be something to watch.
No, that's fair enough. I mean, like you sort of said, there hasn't been too many things. Like, I guess the last quarter fade out against Geelong was a little bit disappointing, the West Coast game, and the second quarter against Adelaide. But I guess Brisbane caught 14 goals in a quarter against
that
GWS.
was unbelievable.
Yeah, so it can happen to the best of us. So maybe we're just putting too much expectation, I don't know, or too much past tense into some of these games that we keep thinking of the past and how it's all going to unravel quite quickly. But they seem to bounce themselves back from adversity a little bit better this year. So, yeah, look, so far so good. Especially after, I think it was the Melbourne pre-season game, I was expecting a pretty tough year. So there haven't been too many lowlights so far this year. Maybe the former Nick Larkey as well. He's been a little bit underwhelming. And just his body language sometimes leaves a lot to be decided. He seems to complain a lot. The players aren't hitting him lace out. So that's something he's got to work on. But I thought he had a good game against Alex Sexton, except for the fact that he did a stupid handball to Charlie Spargo towards the end, where he could have just snapped it himself. And he's 1 metre out where the Cameron Zurhaar free kick happened, and he missed the ball. Like, all he had to do was walk it over the line, and we probably would have been enough. But he missed the ball. So
I think if he had his time again, I'm taking the thought process that he didn't hear the umpire, because if he did, then that's oh boy.
Yeah, it's luckily they called it back. For all the shit free kicks we copped against Gold Coast, at least that one made up for it all. But they're not too many. Can't be too fussy at the end of the day with the lowlights. What's your prediction for the rest of the year? Do you expect that maybe we could get to 9th, 10th or 8th or even?
It's a great question, Dean, and I think this is where we'll see how much progress we've made as a football club, because I think there'll be more expectation from the fans and from the wider football community that we will win games and we will remain extremely competitive in every single game. And it seems to have been the pattern that we have fallen completely off a cliff towards the back end of the year. So it'll be a huge challenge for the group to keep finding a way to show up and put up, really. So and there are so many opportunities to win games, and that's what's exciting here too. I mean, Freo will be tough, but we play West Coast again, so a bit of chance for redemption. We've got Richmond and we've got Essendon. We have Port again, so we've got these winnable games against sides below us on the ladder, and then there's a really tantalising opportunity to play teams that are around us in Melbourne and Collingwood, and have a crack against these sides. And hopefully, if we can continue to win games, there's an opportunity, the carrot there to potentially play a final. And that's an opportunity that shouldn't be taken for granted from this group, because let's be honest, this fixture has been very friendly to us. So next year we may not get the same opportunity. And it's going to be a really... It will define sort of the year, the back half of the year. So it's a big moment for the group. And we'll see what these players are made of. Do you agree with me somewhat there?
Yeah. It's a big challenge to keep, to go on. And I think you nailed it when you sort of said a lot of it's going to rely on how the results go against the teams around them, like the Collingwoods, Melbourne, St Kildas, Bulldogs, and teams like that. If you can... certainly get your fair share from that, because we're still got to play Essendon, still got to play Richmond again. Carlton seem to be coming good, so I mean, I don't think they're going to be as easy in the second half of the year to beat as they probably have been in the first half of the year. So there's going to be some challenges, but I mean, you can string a few wins in a row together. You got West Coast again over there. But if you can string a few wins together, be competitive against the top teams like the Fremantles, Hawthorns, and so forth. It's a good sign. Like if they can keep their percentage in the mid-90s for the rest of the year, I'd probably be happy with that, even if it means 9 wins as opposed to 11 or 12.
Yeah.
So, well, I'm more optimistic than I was probably at half-time last week, Siobhan. So, but we'll...
And that's the thing, nothing's linear, and it's hard now because we've got this taste of being a good side that it almost feels like if we do slip back, it's the end of the world. That's how I felt at halftime, which is a weird feeling to have because it was almost like rather than feeling like this was the norm, it felt like, we've really let ourselves down a little bit. So I guess you got to put the protection armor on a little bit as well and understand that things may not always go our way. But I think there's a lot more fight and a lot more spirit in this group than we've had for a really long time. And I mean, it just proves it on the weekend. I think we all felt like they were dead and buried. So to win, maybe that'll give them the belief that no matter where they are in the game, they can still come back and turn it around, which, it's a pretty amazing thing what belief can do.
No, definitely. And like I think we mentioned earlier in the show, I don't think any North supporter really believed until it actually happened that we were going to win that game. I kept telling Claire, look, we're there or thereabouts, but I never really believed that we were going to come back and win that game until it actually happened. So time in front, 11 seconds. Gold Coast 124 minutes or something like that. So that's what it says at the end of the game, what the scoreboard says. So now mid-season draft, Siobhan, and I don't put too much importance into the selection because most times you don't get anything out of it. It's very rare that you find a Cooper Trembath. You are hoping to find that diamond in the rough. We selected a young kid by the name of Ollie Burke and Ollie Griffin, isn't it?
Ollie Griffin, yep.
Yeah, Ollie Griffin. Why did I say Ollie Burke for? And Will Thurstfield has said in an interview, a feature of his game is his competitiveness, both in the air and on the ground. North Melbourne, that's coming from North Melbourne recruiting manager Will Thurstfield. He's genuinely tough and a really versatile player. He plays a lot taller than his height and he's a booming kick. While he's played most of his football across half forward, we see him as having the ability to play at both ends and potentially even through the wing. Any thoughts on that, Siobhan?
He'll be a project player, I think.
Yeah,
I mean, he's
think
184 centimetres. I don't think we actually know what position he'll play yet because he's sort of that utility. But nice to hear that he's good in the air. I mean, maybe he's a potential key forward that we can prototype and have as a project player. And I guess there's another one that can be versatile. We've spoken a lot about this in the podcast. So maybe someone that I think we won't see him this year. I think he's someone that would definitely develop in the background, freshly 18 years old as well, from St. Bede's and played with Sandy in the under-18s. And, God, they're just a footy factory, Sandringham. They just produce some really good footballers, don't they? So hopefully, the two King boys came from Sandringham, so if he can be sort of Ben King, then we've got someone on our hands. So,
we're going to win the flag if he's Ben King. Sure.
But I guess the fact that they've mentioned his endurance and strength as well, we've got something to work with here. So good luck to the kid. I think he'll get an opportunity to develop in the VFL. We like I said, probably won't see him immediately, but he's an opportunity to have someone on our list that is another tool that we can foster.
Well, we'll see what happens. What do you think this means? That obviously they're getting a forward 50 play. I know they're talking about playing him up the field, but that's probably not going to happen yet. What do you think this means for someone like a Braden George?
It's a good question, isn't it?
Because I think he needs to go to another club because he hasn't had much luck at North Melbourne, and he won't cost anything. But I don't think he's ever going to get a game at North.
Doesn't feel like that, does it? There's a smell to it that would suggest that unless he's playing early after the bye, he probably won't be in our future plans. So, we'll see what happens with him. But it might indicate that they feel they need more depth in that part of the list, that maybe what we have isn't what will take us to the next premiership.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Now, Clarko's medicinal cannabis has come in and said, I framed Dino's apology letter. Well, good for you, Clarko's medicinal cannabis. Thank you for doing that. It was warranted. So you asked for it and I gave it to you. Don't ever say that I don't do things for the people. Just letting you know. So I've got some trivia questions for you for the first half of the year, Siobhan. I'll do this in the AFLW. I'm going to do it for you tonight. Are you ready for some questions?
Oh, Dean, I'm as ready as I'll ever be. Let's do it.
Oh, well, that's good. Yeah. Well, let's start with the first one. So, who has the most tackles in total for North Melbourne so far this season?
I reckon that will be Tristan Sherry.
Well, he's missed 3 games, Siobhan. Is that your final answer?
That is my final answer.
He's second.
Oh,
Yeah, he has 51.
okay.
It is a midfielder.
Am I wrong to say LDU?
Yep, LDU 55.
Wow. Wow.
Total tackles this year. Sheasel 47, George Wardlaw 40.
So I think that says a lot about the evolution of his game, because I think
Yeah,
we've always
I think
known
his defensive side has improved a lot.
Definitely. He's always had that offensive ability, but that screams to me that his defensive side has really improved. So nice to hear.
Noah Anderson was going through the middle. It might have been the second quarter, and he's running through from 50, and LDU chased him hard, and was able to get a fingertip on his jumper, just put his kick off a little bit, and that's something that we didn't usually see before, and it's a very underrated trait, and I think Charlie Common might have intercepted on the goal line. So, yeah, and at the end of the day, they're the little things that make a big difference. He has improved that area of his game. All right, we'll go to the next one. Who is averaging the most goal assists per game this year?
Oh, that's a really good question. Is it an obvious player?
Probably not.
Okay. Am I wrong in saying Zane Dersma?
You are wrong in saying Zane Dersma.
It'll be someone obvious, I think, or pretty obvious. What about Harry Sheasel?
It is not Harry Sheasel.
Okay.
This guy plays in a forward 50, generally.
Paul Curtis.
Yeah, Paul Curtis.
Wow.
1.2. And you know who's second? He plays in the forward 50, this guy as well. I've talked him up a bit as a wily veteran just before.
Jack Darling.
Yeah, 0.9. So.
Wow.
Yeah, LDU 0.7, Finn O'Sullivan 0.7.
Okay. That's really interesting. Really interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Very
some unexpected ones here, Dean.
Yeah, no, I'll put some research into that. When I talk research, 5 minutes. Who is averaging the most ground ball gets inside forward 50 for the team this year?
Ground ball gets.
We don't get many inside our forward 50.
No, that's why I wonder. Ground ball gets. I'll say Paul Curtis again.
Yeah, Paul Curtis it is. 1.6. You know who's second?
It's Jacob Constanti.
Yeah, it is Jacob Constanti, 1.4. So Jack Darling, 1.3. George Wardlaw, 1.3. So that's not bad from Georgie.
That's very good. He's great. Yeah. Very good below his knees, isn't he?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%.
That's his game.
It's good that he's not doing any hamstrings either while he's doing that. So that's even more important. All right. Who is averaging the highest disposal efficiency in the team this year that's played every game?
I'd say Luke Parker.
It is not Luke Parker. He's not in the top 3.
Wow, that surprised me. Zane Dersma.
No, it's not Zane Dersma.
Is it?
This guy is a forward generally.
Is a forward?
Yeah. Which is very rare that a forward averages the best disposal efficiency.
Is it Paul Curtis again?
No, it's not Paul Curtis.
What's the answer, Dean?
It gets a bit like that. Cooper Trembath.
Wow, okay.
Luke McDonald, second, 85.4. Caleb Daniel, third, 84.2.
Yes.
All right, one more. See if you can get this right. Now, which player has conceded the most free kicks in total this year?
Charlie Comben.
It is not Charlie Comben. He's not even in the top 3.
I find that hard to believe. Wow. Free kicks.
It's a midfielder.
It's a midfielder. Is it LDU?
It is LDU,
Yeah.
21. I was surprised Tristan Sherry was not on top of there.
Yes.
He's got 17, he's second, and Harry Sheasel, 15. So there you go, Siobhan.
Thank you, Dean. That was great. It threw up some surprise answers.
Yeah. No, it's good to sort of look back and you watch the game and then, you don't really think about things like who's got the most ground ball gets inside forward 50 because it feels like no one gets a ground ball get inside our forward 50. We're last in the competition for it. So, it's good to see some players are doing it. So, yeah. But, Siobhan, any plans for this weekend?
This weekend will be very quiet without the footy, Dean. So nothing too exciting planned, and maybe a few re-watches of the Gold Coast game.
Yeah, the last quarter in particular. So, yeah,
Absolutely.
I've watched that last 2 minutes a few times. So, last 2 minutes of the game. Yeah,
Incredible, and just might be a really, really silly thing to say, and you could tell me if it is, but I look back on that game against Collingwood in the Amy Community Series and how well they played those last 2 minutes, and they celebrated like they'd won a real game of football. And again, I might be talking out of my ass, but it's possible that something like that has an effect on the group where they go, well, in a real game scenario, we've been able to do it. And it's funny what psychological things like that may do for the group. So the fact that they've been able to deliver like that multiple times this year, even in a community series, gives us hope that, things have progressed in a way that maybe more than what we'd imagined.
No, definitely. Maybe, it's obviously something you've got to work on this day and age in AFL football because it is very competitive in most games and the competition is very competitive most days. So, you've got to have that, ability to close out games. They even do it like, the 2 minute scenario or whatever they do in the pre-season games or 5 minute scenario or whatever it is. So where they put a team in front by 10 points and see how you react and things like that. So it's something teams really work on, I feel. And it's something we've probably haven't had to really work on the last 5 or 6 years because we've been out of most games. Towards the end, we've sort of been getting smashed, but right now, it's something we've definitely got to work on, and for the future as well, because it could be the difference between top 4 to top 6 to top 8 finishes at the end of the day. Siobhan.
Absolutely, team.
Now, before we wrap things up, I just want to give a special shout out. Now, Bella Graham turning 16 tomorrow. Siobhan, she's actually on the same calisthenics team as my daughter, and I'm telling you now,
glorious.
This kid has the best posture you will ever see. Dead straight back. I've never seen anything like it. Just elite. And with her, Charlotte, my daughter, Alicia, and their coach, the one and only Super Kaylee Keegan, I'm calling it now. They're going to be an unstoppable force this season. Every comp, Siobhan, they're winning them all. Lock it in. And
beautiful. Happy birthday.
But seriously, Bella, even Siobhan's getting in there. Happy 16th birthday. You're an absolute star. And Siobhan, thanks so much for jumping on tonight for the mid-season show. Always great to have your insights. And it'd be good to get more wins on the board and you can come on and talk about that. Because it's very rare, Siobhan, that you come on after a win.
No, it is absolutely. I was so excited to get on this Thursday night purely because it has been a while between drinks. But no, we get a well-deserved break from the footy this week. I think good time to reset and then hopefully launch into the second half of the year where we'll see plenty more wins and hopefully even potentially crack double the wins that we had last year. And how exciting would that be? That would just show how far we've come as a group. So very exciting to have a weekend off, but also launch into what should be an exciting second half of the year.
No, definitely. And make sure just to rest up this week. I know you're coming down with a bit of a flu, Siobhan. So rest up. You're 50-50 if there was a game this week. So you make sure you rest up and you're right to go for the rest of the year. But that's it for us tonight on the #Kangaroos podcast. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll probably catch you early next week. Like, subscribe, leave a comment. But bye for now, and go Roos.